While I've rebranded my channel as of late as a Booktube channel, as anyone who knows me is aware, my first love is and will always be video games. I've been playing since I was 4 years old and got my Sega Master System, and while I've had occasional lulls, I've gamed almost every day for the last 3 decades. Given that, and the fact that the Excessive Detail group, both on Facebook and Discord, link in the description, started out as a gaming-focused group, it's only fitting that I also discuss video games on this channel too. As you've no doubt already figured out, the background of the video and the thumbnail will make it immediately apparent whether I'm talking about video games or books in any given video as the primary focus, but I'd like to think that my discussions can cross over and the fans of only one medium will get something out of both kinds of videos. So give them all a try and we'll see if we can bridge the gap between these two highly geeky mediums. So, I decided that in order to do that bridging, I would do the Booktube Newbie Tag a second time. Only this time, I'd edit the questions to be about video games. Let's see if this even remotely works, shall we? We'll skip over question 1, we already know why I started the channel as I discussed it before, and we'll go straight to question 2. What are some fun and unique things you can bring to GameTube? Yes, I'm coining the term GameTube. How no one has done this yet, I don't know. As for my answer, I intend to bring some fresh hot takes, a few interesting discussion points, and my opinions which, unlike most game critics, can't be bought or influenced by money or political pressure. Unlike the book community, there's already a big movement around honest journalism and coverage in the games industry, the Gamergate movement, though I must admit I hate that name. People are going to start thinking the Watergate controversy was actually a controversy about water at this rate. The word gate isn't a suffix, people, stop adding it to everything. That aside, I fully intend to keep the spirit of that movement alive with this channel. Another thing I hope to do is be a voice for critical gamers, as we had a few people doing that back in the day, namely Movie Bob Chipman and Jim Sterling. They made fantastic videos, many of which I fully intend to reiterate on and build on, but sadly both of these men have been lost to us, both becoming sad SJW shills who care more about feminism and social justice than they do about the industry they're supposed to be critiquing. I intend to take their place, because they've so profoundly lost their way now, and someone has to. Question 3. What are you most excited for about this channel? Well, if we're talking specifically the gaming videos here, I'm most excited to have a gaming channel that isn't just a gaming channel. There are many gaming channels on YouTube, but most of them focus only on gaming. I'm excited to be able to relate things in games back to other media, in this case books. Reading books makes gaming so much richer and more entertaining because the references and influences in those games hit with more meaning. I'm hoping that by mixing Booktube with the gaming community, I can get more gamers reading, more bookworms playing video games, and everyone involved finding a deeper love for both of their hobbies. Question 4. Why do you love video games? Well, if that's not a massive question, I don't know what is. Video games transcend all other media because they allow you to do something you simply can't do with film, TV shows, books. They let you be part of the story. They are one of the only mediums where the majority of the stories are second-person perspective. This allows everything to carry so much more weight. You did the thing. You made the decision. There's a level of engagement and investment that you can only get from video games. Enough that even the most generic, trope-laden story can be extremely enticing. At least that's my answer for the majority of narrative-driven games, the mainly AAA genres, the RPGs, action games, open-world sandboxes, etc. But video games isn't just one medium. To compare all video games in that manner would be like lumping film, televised sport, and stand-up comedy together and saying you love them all because of great storytelling. It doesn't work. The fact is, video games isn't one medium. It's many, many mediums with one umbrella term, because they're all so young. They've not truly been given enough focus to branch out on their own. Another facet of gaming for me is platformers. Platformers seem to me to be a completely different beast to narrative games. There's certainly crossover, where something is a mixture of the two, but for the most part a platformer has little to no story, or needs little to no story at least, and instead plays more like an interactive kinesthetic music piece. The level design and input from the controller being the sheet music and each level being its own song. Play through some games like Sonic the Hedgehog long enough and you can speedrun levels with incredible accuracy. It's like playing a power metal song on a guitar. It's exhilarating in a way no other medium can be, other than learning to play music yourself. A great example of this is the Rayman series, which took this to the next level and showed just how kinesthetic a platformer can really be. Question 5. What game or series got you into gaming? This is an interesting question because I have multiple answers depending on where you draw the line in gaming. I started with the Sega Master System, as I said, and there were 2 platformers on there that made me love early gaming, which was almost exclusively platformers back in the 8-bit and 16-bit days. That was all that most systems could handle. Those would be Sonic the Hedgehog, specifically the 8-bit version, and Alex Kidd in Miracle World. Both were great examples of early platforming that still hold up as playable today, but only to a true retro fan. Still, they sparked the love for gaming for me, and unlike most people whose love changed as the game industry changed, they went on to play more 3D games with more complex narratives, resulting in the modern AAA games of today. I kept my love of platformers in their purest form. To this day, I still prefer a 2D platformer over almost any other style of game. However, that's not the complete story. I'm also a PC gamer, and as a kid I was a PC gamer as well. A more hardcore PC gamer than most PC gamers would like to believe, much to their chagrin, despite the fact that I prefer consoles. I played early PC games where the platformer wasn't so hot, largely because of controller inputs. Instead, early RPGs, adventure games and strategy games were the place to be there, and the one that really got me hooked was a game called Castle of the Wind, released for Windows 3.1, a procedurally generated dungeon crawler that got me hooked on the high fantasy aesthetic. It's this game that made me seek out games like Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter Nights, Diablo and other RPGs, and when I wasn't playing them, strategy games and sim games started to take over my time, with games like Roller Coaster Tycoon, Theme Hospital and the Civilization series soaking up hundreds of hours. In many respects, I consider these old PC games a completely different medium yet again. Comparing the likes of Roller Coaster Tycoon to a linear narrative game is ludicrous, frankly. They're just so different. That's the thing about gaming, it's so varied. You could get multiple gamers who consider video games their primary hobby, sit them in a room together and find they have absolutely nothing in common. I don't just mean that they've not played the same games. I mean they play so incredibly different games that they haven't even played the same types of games. It would be like sitting a bookworm, a football fan and a metalhead in the room and claiming you all like entertainment, you should all get along fine. You're media fans. Gaming is so much deeper than people realise. Question 6. What question would you ask your favourite gametubers? Well, as I'm the only gametuber, having coined the term earlier in this video, I guess by process of elimination I am also my own favourite gametuber. So I'd ask, would you like a cookie? And the answer is, I'd love a cookie. Thank you. Next question. Question 7. What challenges in running a GameTube channel would be the hardest for you to overcome? Well, other than the answer I gave in my Booktube Newbie video, which obviously would still apply here, the biggest challenge for me, I think, would be being able to maintain an audience that actually cares about everything I'm talking about. Video games is such a wide topic, as I've said. The chance that I'm going to find a gamer who loves the kinesthetic appeal of retro-style platformers and the deep, fulfilling, multi-level story progression of a Western RPG and the customizable executive toy-level addictiveness of strategy and sim games and the fast, frenetic, challenging gameplay of spectacle fighters and the overblown melodrama and insider tropes of JRPGs and the completionist fun and escapism of open-world sandboxes and the fast-paced Twitch gameplay of racing games. And gaming is not, I repeat, not one hobby. It's about a dozen hobbies that all happen to involve an interactive electronic device. Gaming is so diverse in its reach that reading is a subgenre of gaming. We call it visual novels. It's literally just a goddamn book with some mood music, and you turn the page by pressing the controller button. Occasionally you make a decision that makes superficial differences to the story, and oddly enough you are often depicted as a character in the story, making it another example of second-person narratives, which is rare in books. But yeah, visual novels. They're books on games consoles. That's what they are. Books are a subgenre of video game now. Oh, and don't think books are being isolated. You think film is special? Is it shite? Film is also a subgenre of video games now. We call it interactive drama. It's literally a film you watch while you make decisions every few minutes in order to keep it interactive. The gameplay is practically non-existent. In some cases, the line between an interactive film and a video game is really, really smudged, and you get something like Until Dawn, a game that feels like you're watching a horror film, but where you decide through your actions which of the annoying teens gets gutted next. And yes, it's possible for both everyone to die or for no one to die, depending on how you play it. So given all that, the biggest challenge for any gaming channel on YouTube that's not focused on one specific game or game franchise, or even genre, is simply keeping an audience engaged. The chances that you actually like all the different aspects of gaming are extremely slim. I consider myself the Renaissance gamer, in that I like most genres, but I don't play arcade fighting games at all, and there's an active community around them. I have no idea how to judge them, with their frame-perfect inputs and combo strings. I just never got into them, having never really had an arcade around me and never really playing in arcades. I grew up on consoles and PC, not arcade cabinets, so those trends never resonated with me. The same would be true of shooters. I only recently started playing video games online, and I was never a big fan of first-person shooters. So despite being one of the biggest genres in gaming, I have no interest in it, and honestly couldn't tell you the difference between Call of Duty or Battlefield. Question 8. When did you start gaming? As I've said before, I started gaming at age 4 with the Sega Master System, and from there I've gone on to pretty much play every facet of gaming. My early gaming was console-based, with the Master System and later the Mega Drive being my biggest influences. I never did own a Nintendo Entertainment System, but I did own the SNES. My parents got our first PC when I was 7, and from there PC gaming quickly became another string to my bow, and I played pretty much every system you can think of since then, with PlayStation 4 being my current focus for gaming. Question 9. Where do you play your games? This question is becoming less and less relevant nowadays, as arcades are pretty much gone, old LAN cafes are all but gone, and with only one supported handheld on the market, which isn't truly portable as it doesn't fit in the average pocket. Like everyone else, I game at home now, especially in 2020 when you're probably locked in your home. I do love my PS Vita, and before that my 3DS and my Game Boy Advance SP both saw lots of play. I consider myself a portable gaming fan, but now much less so. I still don't own a Switch. Why would I bother when all that releases for it either comes to the PS4 or is a Wii U re-release that I already own? I would like to consider myself a portable gamer, but if I'm honest, I haven't been for a few years now. I'm a pretty sedentary PlayStation 4 gamer. And finally, the most important question by far, What kind of games do you like to play? This has to be one of the most open-ended questions that could possibly be asked, but we all knew it was coming. I won't go back over the various types of games again, I made my point well enough the last time. I'll instead discuss some of my favourites here, I think. As I said, I grew up on platformers, and unlike many, I maintained my love for them. I prefer the 2D platformer in general, though 3D platformers are a great genre when done well. Some of my favourites include the Sonic the Hedgehog series, the Donkey Kong Country series, Shovel Knight, Axiom Verge, Celeste, and of course, Hollow Knight. When it comes to 3D platformers, Super Mario 3D Land and 3D World are in a league of their own at the moment, with the upcoming Sackboy game for PlayStation 5 looking to do a very similar thing. Unlike most 3D platformers that either become hybrid action games or become collectathons, these are few games that stay purely about the platforming despite being in 3D. I do still enjoy games like the Sly Cooper and Ratchet & Clank games though. When it comes to platformers, I would be remiss to not mention my all-time favourite though. Astrobot Rescue Mission for PlayStation VR is the single most enjoyable platforming experience I have ever had to date, and it alone justified the purchase of a VR headset for me. I absolutely love that game, and it is one of my all-time favourites. Outside of platforming, my next big gaming thing is probably racing games, though I only realised that recently. I never considered myself a big fan of racing games until I looked back over my game library and realised that not only are some of my favourites racing games, I have loads of them. I'm also pretty damn good at them too, having platinum trophies in Need for Speed, Burnout Paradise and Horizon Chase Turbo, and then there's Grip Combat Racing where I'm only a single trophy away from the plat. I don't tend to play other sports games, it's racing games exclusively, with one small exception, extreme sports games. I quite enjoyed some of the snowboarding games like SSX Tricky and Steep, but they were really just patches for the true love, which is the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series, which I'm so glad now has a competent, well-made remake on the PS4 as of 2020. My third big gaming aspect would be open world sandboxes and RPGs. I lump these all together as the genres have slowly been merging over time. Western RPGs are pretty much non-existent, as you can simply take the large storylines, branching dialogue and character customization and transplant them wholesale into an open world, and then you've just got the modern AAA game. After all, if you claim The Witcher 3 as an RPG, but don't claim that the same is true for, say, Marvel's Spider-Man, I have to question what criteria you have for what counts as an RPG. My position is that honestly RPG is a term that's lost all relevance and is slowly being applied to every single game out there, as RPG elements are added to pretty much everything. I do play quite a few of these AAA games though, having completed and got the platinum for Infamous Second Son, Horizon Zero Dawn, Marvel's Spider-Man and Tom Clancy's The Division, with multiple others such as Red Dead Redemption, Days Gone, Assassin's Creed Origins, The Division 2, The Witcher 3, Sleeping Dogs, Shadow of Mordor, and many more, all being games I played through and thoroughly enjoyed, all on my radar and games I would, in theory, like to complete. As for anything beyond that, I've actively taken steps away from PC gaming now, as it was becoming a honestly unhealthy time sink for me, with hundreds of hours spent per game on games like the Civilization series, the Tropico series, Europa Universalis 4, and no joke, multiple thousands of hours spent in EVE Online, which is something I'm always tempted to go back to and then remember that life is finite and I have other things I want to do eventually. I've had to step away from the PC. I do enjoy linear action games and adventure games on occasion as well, such as the Uncharted series, and I really love The Last of Us, which is the game that got me into trying competitive online multiplayer. Other single-player games, such as Spectacle Fighters, i.e. Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, Vanquish are games that I loved in my 20s, though as I've got older my reflexes are dulling and my skills are fading a little, so I tend to play them a little less now. I like the odd beat 'em up, such as the Streets of Rage series on the Mega Drive, and the modern equivalent, that being the Dynasty Warriors series. A bit of button mashing is great fun and can be quite cathartic. There are JRPGs like the Final Fantasy series, which I have a great love and a lot of nostalgia for. Isometric dungeon crawlers like Diablo and Path of Exile are amongst my favourites. Some artistic indie games like Aya and Journey are games I thoroughly enjoy, and there's so much more. I could literally keep on going for hours, and given how many games I've discussed, it should now be absolutely obvious why I haven't edited in any gameplay in this video. It would have taken all damn year. There's always new games to experience, and even with 3 decades of experience and a wealth of knowledge on the topic, I have huge gaps in my gaming experiences that leave me aghast at just how much there is out there, given how young this medium really is. Still, I'm going to have to leave it there, as this video is quite long enough already. So, from now on you'll see book-based videos on this channel with the book thumbnail that you're used to, and gaming-based videos with the gaming thumbnail that was with this video. They should be fairly easy to distinguish at a glance, but I hope you'll take a look at my other videos. And if you're not much of a reader, take a look anyway. You never know what might enhance your gaming experience. Until next time, thanks for watching.